I run the office. It's my law practice. I've been doing it for 27 years. We have about 13 employees, and we have about 1,300 cases, and we take the case from A to Z. Do everything.
How did you land your current role? Like, what type of college work before this?
4 years of high school, 4 years of Rutgers College in New Jersey. Came out here for law school at the University of San Diego. After law school, I took the bar, passed the bar, and opened up my office immediately thereafter and worked my way up.
Did you have any mentors help you to where you are today?
Crazy guy by the name of Jack Don.
And what was their best advice to you?
Be yourself.
Describe some highlights of your work.
Settling big cases. Some pretty fun trials over the years, some crazy cases. I had a case many years ago when I first started practicing that involved a llama, which is kind of like a camel. And the llama was at a Renaissance fair, broke loose, went nuts, hit a patron. He flew up in the air, and the llama weighed about 300 pounds, landed on his shoulder, ripped his shoulder up. And the issue was whether the llama was a domesticated or a wild animal. If the llama was I believe, a domesticated animal, it would have been strict liability. And so we had to research that, and it turned out that it was a domesticated animal. I had to look up, back then we didn't have internet, and so I was looking in many old law books about reading old English cases that talked about domesticated versus wild animals.
And one of your greatest challenges in the job?
Maintaining the volume, dealing with the volume. It's a high volume business.
Think back 5 years ago. Did you envision this is where you would be?
5 years ago, yes. 10 years ago, no.
Describe the most important leadership lesson you have learned.
Delegate sometimes. You have to delegate. Can't do it all.
Describe the most valuable work characteristic for success in this career.
Be relentless.
And what advice would you give me to get to where you are now, I guess in a different field?
In a different field, same thing. Be relentless. Don't take no for an answer. Keep plugging away no matter what obstacles are in front of you.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
So, what do you do here?
I'm a associate attorney here. I provide attorney work to clients.
Okay. How did you land your current role? Like, how did you get here? What college did you go to? All of that.
I originally went to community college because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and I didn't really have good grades in like high school. So I didn't even know I wanted to go to college. So I just went, and I enjoyed it a lot. And then I transferred over to Cal State Long Beach, and then I majored in criminal justice. I originally wanted to go into law enforcement, and I took the LSAT randomly, and then applied to like a couple law schools here and there, not thinking that I was going to get into law school. I ended up getting into Thomas Jefferson here in San Diego. And in law school, I met a friend named Eric who used to work for Tom here as a filing clerk. And I was looking for an internship, and he introduced me to Tom, and I came in here as an intern my second year in law school. I fell in love with the workers' comp. I really liked what I do, the people I represent. I really enjoyed helping injured workers. So I stuck with this, and after law school, I graduated, took the bar, passed it. Tom offered me an associate position. That's where I'm here. That's where I'm at now.
Do you have any mentors? I guess Tom, for sure.
Right.
Any other mentors that helped you to get to where you are today?
There's also Don. There's Aaron. Not necessarily attorneys. Don played a big role. So did Aaron, and of course Tom. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. What was their best advice for you?
Always do your best to help the injured worker. And in terms of when, them telling me that, that's like, it always stuck with me, right? Especially in like hard times or hard cases or like rough days at the WCAB. You know, when you are kind of like not, you know, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like, you know, there's times where it's kind of like, oh, this, I don't think this client's like appreciative. But at the same time, though, they're in a system that's kind of not the greatest for them, right? So you gotta put yourself in their shoes and, you know, understand their frustrations.
And what are some highlights of your work?
I don't know if I could talk about any of this stuff. I won my first AOE COE trial recently, so that was really cool. I think, I know I've only been doing this for a year and some change now.
Right.
I think that's probably one of the highlights of my career thus far.
And some of your greatest challenges?
Greatest challenges is learning something that was never taught to me in law school, which is workers' comp. Workers' comp is not taught in law school, as probably your dad knows, and Tom. Like, workers' comp is something that a mentor teaches you, or you learn on your own through trials and error, right?
Mm-hmm.
This world, like, you know, it's not like, I would say, it's not like, for example, Wills and Trust is taught to you in law school, so when you go and practice Wills and Trust, you have a foundation to build off of, right? Although they don't teach you every single rule, at least you have a foundation. Workers' comp was completely, nothing was ever taught, period, you know? And I think that's, yeah, just to answer your question.
Think back 5 years ago. Did you envision that this is where you would be?
No, absolutely not. I didn't even know what I wanted to do 5 years ago, to be honest with you. I think I was in my last tail end of college and kind of hoping I land a cool job. And at the time, I think the recession was still affecting my generation, so it's kind of hard to get like a real good paying job. So you had to get an additional education in order to, you know, be stable financially, I should say.
Describe the most important leadership lesson that you have learned.
I think I learned it here, actually. It's just working as a team, like talking to, you know, your assistants and paralegals and stuff like that, and understanding, like, you know, they have a stressful job as well, trying to help you with cases and stuff like that. So it's really imperative that you ask them if you need any help, what you can, you know, what you can do to, you know, take some of the load off their shoulders. I think that, to me, I think that's important because, you know, when you're bombarded with work and you need help, they're more receptive to help you out as well. So it's like a team effort.
Describe the most valuable work characteristic for success in this career.
I think it's understanding your client and, you know, understanding what they're going through. I think if you're able to do that, you'll be successful here on workers' comp, for sure.
And what advice would you give me to get to where you are now?
Just study hard, do the best that you can. Understand that, you know, you're gonna fall into like certain situations where it's, you know, school's gonna be difficult, exams are gonna be difficult. You might not get the grade that you want in certain classes, but, you know, all those trials and error, or trials and tribulations that you go through will help you down the line.
Right.
Ask away.
What, or do you want to see these real quick before? Just, all right.
Cold. There we go.
What do you do here? What do you do?
Realistically, pretty much everything that's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
We are a law firm, and lawyers tend to do whatever's necessary in response to the situation. So I appear at court, I write pleadings, I meet with clients, I argue with defense attorneys, I try and push files towards resolution in the most favorable way for our clients. That's what we do. That's what I do.
How did you land your current role, like college prep, mentors that helped you out? What type of work did you do before?
Well, I've been an attorney for 22 years. Before that, I was in school and I went through law school and took the bar. Before that, I was in college, but I did work during college. I had a painting business and I painted houses during the summer for 3 years. And before that, I detailed cars. So I've always had physical jobs, and I figured no more physical jobs when I went to law school. Background-wise, as far as who helped me, mentors, I was lucky to meet somebody when I got out of law school who did workers' compensation defense, and he brought me in and mentored me and kind of walked me through the basics of what workers' compensation is and taught me how to not really screw it up, which is kind of what we start from. Don't want to make mistakes in the beginning. You may not know everything, but you're trying not to make mistakes, and then usually things get better from there.
That was his best advice to you?
No, his best advice to me, be on time.
Describe some highlights of your work.
Highlights of my work have been helping people whose denied claims become accepted through litigation, getting them treatment that they desperately needed and hopefully better. I've counseled people on not having surgery when it was probably the best course. I think that's a good thing. I'm pretty proud of that because our system gears people towards getting surgeries, whether that's a good idea or not. So I like that. Just trying to be a fair person in the system.
And what are some of your greatest challenges?
The law. The law keeps changing. It's been a steady drumbeat in the last 10, 15 years to remove benefits from injured workers, to save the state from economic ruin, and in the process they've harmed injured workers without care. And that's been a big roadblock, is the lack of treatment for these people who are certainly entitled under the rules to be treated, and as the Constitution says in California, cure or relieve the effect of the industrial injury. We're not meeting that burden under the current law, and that's a real struggle every day. It's very frustrating.
Think back 5 years ago, I guess in your case 22 years ago, did you envision this is where you would be?
No, I started my own office. I had my own office for a while, and I thought I'd be working for myself. I've decided that that's not always the best bet, and I don't want to be a business manager person. I want to be an attorney. So working for others, that wasn't expected, but it's worked out for me.
Describe the most important leadership lesson you have learned.
I don't know if I have any leadership lessons that I've learned. Watching other people lead, you can take away from it good and bad, but I don't know if I have a real lesson in leadership. I guess it'd be good to be consistent with the people under you so that they know what to expect and things don't seem to be punitive for the person when it's not. It's just being random. So consistency, I think, is probably a good thing.
Describe the most valuable work characteristic for success in this career.
Keeping an open mind, wanting to find the answer, whatever it is. It doesn't always go your way here, but there's usually an answer out there, and you could probably find it if you work hard enough. People get presented with problems, and it's our job to try and solve the problem with answers. So hopefully we find the answer that's favorable, and that's our goal.
And what is your advice that you would give a student to get to where you are now?
Grades matter. No matter what they say, yeah, high school matters. Undergrad matters. It all leads to where you go for grad school and final. So you don't need to be a 4 or 5.0 student, but you should be working hard and doing your best at all times. And slacking off, yeah, it's convenient, but it won't pay off in the long run. Put the work in earlier. The better your school, the better your job. And the reality is the better schools don't test any harder than the lower schools. So if you can get into a better school, your career will be better. And how do you get into a better school? You do the work early and in undergrad and in high school. So I would say put the time in. Yes, it seems really far away and somewhat ethereal, but work pays off. And if you do a good job in school, you will have a better life because your career will be easier to attain. No guarantees.